Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session on our Azure Community Apex. And today we have our special guest Armando Resada, who is Microsoft MVP and a certified trainer. And he is going to take us through the session. And before we get into session, I just want to mention that there is a recording for this session and a certificate of participation at the end of session. Just make sure you collect that. And yeah, before anything, we just want don't want to delay anything. Let's just get into the session. Over to you, Armando.
All right, cool. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
All right, just making sure. Good morning from California in the United States to you guys. I saw someone there in the chat saying hello from the Philippines. I cannot see the chat right now. I'm just seeing the roster there. And it's great to be with you. Thank you for the Surag for the invitation to be here with the group. It's always good to make new friends, right? So let me do here my sharing so we can get this screen bigger. Get this guy here and this. Now it should be bigger on your screen. Hopefully, let's see. There we go. Now it's I hope it's showing for you. Like, can you give me a thumbs up to make sure it's showing there for you too? All right, I see the thumbs up there. Very good. Once again, great to be here with you. My name is Armando Lacerda, and I have here a slide deck with some concepts I want to share with you, but also I have an intro slide deck. So let me get my intro slide deck here. There it is. And I do have my clicker here somewhere. Let's see if my clicker is working. Of course, my clicker is not working. So I'm not going to use the clicker today. I'm going to go with the mouse. Okay, so like I said, my name is Armando Lacerda. I am a Microsoft MVP, and MVP is an award that Microsoft gives to professionals like you, like me, when we go, and we share what we know about Microsoft technology, about cloud computing. In my case, in particular, I've been a data guy for over 30 years. I've been working as a DBA, have data engineering, I have data architect, and I migrated to the cloud a few years back. And I'm always looking for opportunities like this to share what I know so I can benefit you, right, with some new knowledge, perhaps some new skills and some new things to look at. So if you decide to do the same, put up a blog site up, and start sharing what you know, and answer questions on forums and things like that. You may get noticed by Microsoft, and if nominated, you may get this award, right? So this is a very very cool thing to have. I'm very proud of being a Microsoft MVP. I'm also a Microsoft MCT, which means I am a trainer, a certified trainer, and as a trainer, Microsoft invites me to go to their customers and teach classes, teach their contents with hands-on labs and all of that. And I have some content of my own, so it's something I've been doing for over 30 years as well. And in order to be a trainer, you get to get certified. Here are some of my certifications. I have over 100 certifications from Microsoft and other vendors. These are things that in order to be able to teach a class, right? The vendor must tell the customers that you know the thing. So that's what the certifications are for. One last thing, I love to make new friends, like I said, and my preferred social network for professional connection is LinkedIn. So you can search me on LinkedIn by my name, Armando Dash Lacerda. There is only one me, only one person with this name there. I think there are two other ones. I think one is in Spain, but it's easy to find me. Just look for my picture. You're gonna see me there. Most people don't use email anymore, but if you want to send me an email, this is the email you should use. Um, you during my demos, I'll be using other emails like my Hotmail account. I'm just dating myself. I have gonna use my Hotmail account, some other accounts perhaps, And you can send emails there too, but I the Hotmail in particular, I don't read that mailbox. It's too full of of trash. So everything that goes in there goes straight to trash usually. So if you want to communicate with email, this is the best one to communicate with me. All right. And that's it about introductions. Like I said, I'm here in the United States. I'm here in California, and I just moved to my new house. I moved in here 3 days ago, and if something goes bad here in terms of technology, it's probably because I forgot to plug in some cable, whatever. Like my clicker decided not to work, but we're gonna make it through, right? I have rehearsed everything in here, so hopefully everything will work. All right, so let's jump into our agenda for the day. This is what we'll be talking about. I will have a quick word at the beginning about zero trust. That's something that if you are not familiar with, you want to get to know this thing. So we're gonna talk a little bit about zero trust, and then we get into the specifics about the private network case in the public cloud, see how that works, and the story behind it, the public networking and the private networking in Microsoft Azure. And I have demos about all of that one, so the hybrid connections and all of that. I have demos to present to you. So I hope this sounds good. I hope this is what you signed up for. This is the pretty much the abstract of my session. So in here, and sorry for something. Sometimes something shows up here in the background. It's just like I said, I just moved. uh, when we want to connect computers and our customers are using the computers, right? Our the employees or external consultants, some third-party people. When you want to people, when we want to connect those customers and their devices to our network, historically, traditionally, what usually do is set up some sort of VPN. I'm an independent consultant. I run my own business, and I have a lot of consulting customers out there. And every time I get new customer, one of the first things they do is, you need to VPN into our network, and here's the VPN client, here's the multi-factor authentication for the VPN client, and so far so on. Traditionally, this is what we've been doing since forever, right? We do VPN stuff. And the thing with the VPN is it has this concept of if you connect into the network, you are a safe person. Your device is safe. You're a safe person. I have authenticated you. I have authenticated your device. My systems have authenticated you. So now we are into the bubble, right? You are into the safe zone because I checked about your computer, your environment, the things you're using, your device, and yourself. So you are into the safe zone. And once you are in the safe zone, the concept of the VPN is we don't check you again, right? You're in. You got an IP address of my network. Now you're free to flow around into my network and knock on servers' doors. And if you have authentication there, you can connect. But you are into the safe zone, and that is a liability. It's a security risk. So this concept of VPN that is so implemented everywhere is being under review for a few years. And it's actually being replaced by this concept here called, or this technique, I rather say, called the zero trust. So zero trust is it's a new way of implementing security. And it's not that new anymore. It's been around for, like I said, a couple of years. Is another way to implement network security, especially for the age of the cloud. So imagine this. Uh, let's say your company uses a Microsoft 365 offering, right? You're using Word, Excel, PowerPoint to have all of those services from Microsoft. If you want to, like, if you go to OneDrive and you open your OneDrive in your browser, you do not VPN into Microsoft's network, right? You just open the browser or open the OneDrive client app, and you start browsing your files there. You don't VPN in anymore. And that is the idea of zero trust. The idea of zero trust is I'm going to allow you to have a safe connection to my network resources without VPN and private to you, and I'm going to keep your network secure. And the elements that make this up, they're kind of depicting here. This is just an illustration, not to have a white background behind me. But the idea that what I want you to take away from this particular slide is this name, if you're not familiar with, and do a little research on it one. But the basic idea here is there are some technology in places like single sign-on, publisher verification, device verification with conditional authentication context for the device. And this is very important. Continuous access evaluation, which means every single click that I do on Word and Excel when I'm doing it online or on OneDrive when I click on a folder and get into a folder, every single action is re-authenticated every single time to make sure that it's not someone impersonating somebody else, to make the environment secure. That's the idea. uh, Someday in the future, and hopefully not in a far future, but in the near future, this kind of a session that we're having today will not be talking about private networking. We'll be talking about zero trust. And during my demos, I will have some zero trust going on. You see there, but the body of this session here is actually the VPN idea, the private network idea. But before I get in there, I just want to make sure that you understand that this is there. It's already in place. It's working with many cloud providers, and companies are implementing this, on their own pace, and they will have this working soon enough. All right. With that said, let's go ahead and browse to the next one. So this is our case. Let's start over here. What's the case? You are a network administrator, right? Or you work with services, network services that are connected to the network, of course. And you've been working on an on-premise setting, right? So you work for this fictitious company here. This company has 3 sites. One is San Diego, one is in Los Angeles, and one in San Francisco. So, here in California, so they have 3 sites. They're all connected through WAN connections. They call like, Comcast or Xfinity or some other ISP provider. They have their own wide area network. Everything is private. All the IPs are private. So everything is really isolated for the company, which is great. Like I said, I've been working with computers for a long time. And I remember when I was used to live down there in Florida, and I had this customer. They have an office in Fort Lauderdale, an office in Fort Myers, and an office in Naples. And I had to go from office to office to go set up stuff in there, make sure the connections are okay when something goes down. So this is traditional, right? This is how we used to, how most companies are still working today. And even when they migrated to the cloud, some of them are still keeping their own private network. And when they do their own private network, what do they have in each one of these sites? Well, in order to have a private network, you need to have like a switch, right? You would go and order switch through your retailer, your reseller. So you buy a switch from some brands, you stack up those switches, you get all the cables in. You may put the switches on a rack, you mount them on a rack, right? You may have your service by those racks. So everything is physical and connected, and you can see the cables. And to be honest, I kind of miss this, because since I have started working with the cloud about 7 years ago, more intensively with the cloud, I'm not dealing with these things anymore. I don't see cables anymore. I don't see those switches anymore. I know they are there, but companies are hiring me to help them migrate their workload to the cloud. So I kind of not seeing that anymore. But I remember those times, right? I've been there. And that's the idea, right? If you want to create, if I need to have another site here at the near one, like in Sacramento, for instance, here in California, I would go there and put the switch in there, put the connection, all the drill we just went through, right? All of that. But then this thing called the cloud showed up. And the thing about the cloud is companies want to go to the cloud because they have learned that when you run services, usually they run better and more cost effectively when you run them in the cloud. Why is that? Because the cloud is like when you live in community, right? If you want to keep a castle for yourself, living by yourself in a big castle will cost you a lot. But if you live in a village and you share benefits with the community, usually everyone giving their own share, pay for their own share, everybody benefits from the strength of the community, right? And that's the idea of the cloud. The cloud is of course, is a multi-tenant cloud provider like Microsoft Azure. And we have a lot of services there from Azure that Microsoft develops and they make available in there. So my company, my fictitious company here, they have been working on premise all the time. They have SQL databases going on in there. They have file shares going on in there. They have all of these things going on locally, but they want to start moving to the clouds for all of these benefits I have already mentioned, but they have a concern. And the concern is obvious, right? My data is private here. This thing is public. When I move my data to the cloud, will my data be exposed to the public internet? And the answer for that question, like any other question you ask from a DBA, is it depends. But by default, when you put this specifically the data services up in Azure, they depending on the service, they may or may not be public facing the internet, the public internet. They may or may not be. Like this one here, and one of the, if you're not that familiar with the cloud yet, specifically Azure, in Azure, you usually document most of the things using the Azure icons. You know, the best practice to put the names under those icons. But if you want to read diagrams, the documentations from Azure, you better get familiar with the icons. So like this one here in the middle is the storage account to store files. It's not a replacer for or a replacement for OneDrive. OneDrive is for end users. Storage accounts, they are usually for files for applications, supporting applications like a website that needs to store files somewhere. You would store those files in the storage account. Or data lake, right? If you're doing data engineering, you have all those structure or semi-structure or unstructured data, and you need a place to put that data. You put it those data in a storage account, or you may have a SQL server. So the storage account would by default be facing the public internet. SQL Server by default is not connected, right? They changed the deployment model. It used to be public by default, but now they changed. You have to tell when you deploy SQL Server. We're going to show that in the demo. And there is this new guy here. What is it here? There is this new guy here, the Microsoft Fabric, which is, I'm sorry, which is the new Microsoft service for analytics, right? For everything analytics you want to do, instead of having multiple services out there doing data analytics, you can have only one platform collecting all the data there. That is the Microsoft Fabric, right? This one here, Microsoft Fabric. So my company traditionally have been working on premise, but now they want you connecting here. And they want to make sure that all the data that's in there, at least at the beginning, it's still private. Like I need a new SQL server to support an internal application, but I don't want that SQL server to be on premise because I have to buy a server, I have to buy a licenses and all of that. I want that SQL server to be here. I want that SQL server to be in the cloud over here. Yeah, at the same time, I want that SQL Server to be visible or accessible only to my local network. How do I do that? Oh, you came to the right place. I came here exactly to show you how to do that. In terms of design, it goes like this. Let me get here to the side. In terms of design, it works like this. every service up in the cloud will have that public IP address. But if you want that service to be connected to your private networking, like exactly like you would do on a physical environment, on a real world environment, like you have an office and then you have to buy a switch to start creating a local network in that office. Up in the cloud, up in Azure, if you want to start creating your own private network that will be just for you, like buy a switch, you put in there in the cloud just for you. What you do is you get a service in the cloud that will resemble your own private network, and that service is the VNet. So this icon here with the three dots, it's called the VNet, not VPN, not VPN. It's the VNet. And VNet, of course, stands for virtual network, right? Or virtual networking, virtual network. So inside the VNet, the IP address in here is the private IP address, 10.0, 10 dot something, or 172.196, or 192.168, whatever, right? So IP addresses, they are not routable in the public internet. They're for private usage. So what you do, the first thing you do is creating a virtual network. The second thing you do is once you have your virtual network, you're gonna tell the services you want that are storing your data that you want to work only or with the data only in a private setting. You it's like if you have, imagine that you have a cable. This server, let's say this SQL server. This SQL server is connected to the public internet. I'm going to unplug that cable from the public internet and plug that cable to my internal switch or my private networking or VNet, right? The name of the service. The connection in between a service to a private network is known as a private endpoint. So what is a private endpoint? Private endpoint is the connecting of the cable into your private network address. Now, if you look at this line here, for instance, and my camera is not working well yet, I have to fix that later. My fingers are disappearing. So let me use the mouse here. Let's see if the mouse goes better. Where is the mouse? Mouse is there. Whoops. Don't break anything, Armando. Let's see. There we go. All right, here's my mouse. So if you follow this line here, you see that, of course, like any other line, there are two ends in this line. There is one end connecting here to the private IP address, and there is another end connecting to the service. So this end here that connects to the private IP address, right, the one down here, is called the private endpoint. And the other end of the service is the private service, right? Is the other end of that cable, which means just this: if there is a service in Azure and I want to connect that service to a private setting, private network setting, I need to double check if that service supports that. So if the service support that, the documentation will tell you that the service has a private link. That's the name, private link. Private link means that a service can be connected to a VNet. So if the service has a private link, you can set up a private endpoint to your VNet. Some people get a bit confused because there's private link, private endpoint. What's this thing? Imagine a coin is the two sides of the same coin, right? One side, the other side. If it's a cable, it's one end of the cable, the other end of the cable. For us, what we really set up is the private endpoints because the private link is or is not supported by the service. Okay. If you have questions about these things, please write down your questions, put them in the chat. At the end of my demos, I will have about 5 or 10 minutes to chat with you, right? To talk with you. You can come on the microphone if you like to ask questions about this. But this is the deal, right? This is what we do. We connect these services any service that we want to keep private, right? Like the title of this session, let's keep it private. We connect them to private endpoints to a VNet. And with that, once we do this, everything that that service holds, all the data or compute that that service supports, will be accessible only through that private internet. Azure will hide it from the public internet. Nobody can see it if the service support it. But then I have another problem, because that private network is up in the cloud, right? Let me get here to the side. That private network is up in the cloud. My three sites of my company, they're still down here, right? I have San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and these 2 points here, they are not connected. So how do I wire this up? Connect this this private networking on a public cloud to my private infrastructure. So it's like San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and somewhere in the West Coast, right? Perhaps Seattle, perhaps here some in a data center here in California, or even perhaps in the other side of the country, like in in Philadelphia, or even in the other side of the world, like in Australia. It will be just another site of my company hosted on a Microsoft data center. So how do I connect these two? And at this point, I need you to pay close attention, because there will be two things here. They're interconnected, they're mingled together, but they have two distinct purposes. So follow me along here. Let me have some coffee first. When I want to connect these two guys together, my sites that I already have on premise and my public internet support, when I want to connect these two guys together, the first thing, if you recall the OSI, the layers, right? The 7 layers of the network protocol. There is this third layer, the routable payload of the protocol, that is really agnostic of any service you are using, right? It's just how to get the package from end to end. So if you are in one of the local sites and you want to get to Azure, you're going to use the browser. For instance, right, if you're doing the portal, you're going to use the browser to get there. And like you'll be doing here in the demo in a few minutes. So if, like in my home office, I just have my router here that connects me to the local network provider, the local internet provider. And when I connect through Teams, I'm talking to you through Teams here, it will just go over the public internet. So the same way, my sites, they can be connected to Azure through the public internet without much infrastructure in place, right? If I just have the public internet, my traffic can go over there. Notice that I'm not hitting the VNets yet, right? On purpose, I make a distance here. I'm just hitting Azure as a whole. The problem with this setting here is the user, some user in Los Angeles, right? Some user here in Los Angeles that is trying to hit Azure to get some data or ask some application there to process something, is sharing the network bandwidth over the public internet with the guy on the next booth that is watching a video on YouTube, or the other guy that's playing a game over there, or the other guy that is watching Netflix, or seeing sports, or watching Formula One, like I like watching Formula One, right? The bottom line is this network bandwidth here that delivers the package on layer 3 from place to place, regardless if you're doing public access or private access. This network bandwidth is shared with multiple distinct network traffic that may disrupt your performance connecting to Azure. So even though this is possible, it's right there out of the box, you just connect. Microsoft offers on select locations Microsoft offers this service called the Express Route. And the Express Route service, what it does is you set up your local router. I'm sorry, your local router on your locations and on your data centers. And through in that local router, there will be instruction there through BGP protocol that will tell the router like this. If the traffic is for Netflix, for that Formula One race the guy wants to watch, or a game, or a news site or documentation site, whatever it is, any traffic that's not Azure will keep flowing through the public internet. But any traffic that is targeting Azure will flow through the express route. And that express route, the idea of it is like a cable in between your site and Azure. So Microsoft has agreements, partnerships with local network providers, public internet providers, again on select locations. And you order the service through Microsoft. Microsoft dispatches these guys. They go there with the equipment and a cable. And the idea is they're going to stretch a cable from your location to Azure, going to plug you straight to Azure. And there are multiple benefits of doing this. The most important for this particular session and for most workloads out there is you have a reliable double link. So it's, if one cable breaks, the other one is there. So it's a double link, reliable bandwidth to access Azure. So you don't have that fluctuation because you're not sharing the network bandwidth with other traffics other than Azure target traffic, right? Now, what is important here is this session is about privacy, right? It's about, my data will not be exposed to the public internet. This connection over the express route does not guarantee privacy. This is just an L3 connection, of course, with some rules on top of it, so they're more into it. But in a very simplified way, it's a layer 3 connection, end-to-end package delivery through a different route. That's all that it does. So if you want the privacy here, you still need to create your VPN, because the VPN is the thing that will encrypt the package before it travels over, right? So the express route does not replace the need of a VPN, because there is a VPN from here to here, from here to here. There's some sort of a gateway connection implementing this. So regardless how you do the connection over there, you still need a gateway, either through the public internet or through the express route. You still need the gateway, because the gateway is the one that will logically implement the connection in between all your private networks. So to have an application in here to connect to SQL Server up in the cloud in a private way, so only this application, only people inside my network can see the service that are up in Azure. Nobody from the public internet can see those services. This is the final design, or simplified design, right? But this is a final design. I got the service, I got the VNet, I got the gateway connecting my on-premise sites, right? My own data centers to what is available there in Azure. And this is where my demo will start. All right. I hope it's clear so far. Let me go over the demo and then we'll come back for questions. Okay. So let me switch here. Let me get smaller here on the corner. And let me get the browser up there. Let me see. Can you see the browser? Thumbs up for me there in Teams. So I make sure that you guys are still there. I didn't put anybody to sleep. And all right. Okay, so let's go over the environment that I have put up here for you, which kind of resembles the slide deck. So I have this resource group here that I've called Keep It Private. And what I have in this resource group is a VM, right? I call it my jump box. So we're going to connect to this VM to see what's in there on that virtual network. Actually, let me go back here to my slide deck. This is the design for a regular, for a full-blown workload. The actual design for our demo here goes like this, right? Is this one here. I have that jump box connect to the VNet, and we're going to have this service here also connect to the VNet. We're going to see how that works. I don't have a remote site to connect, right? I don't have a computer here that I can do the connection over there. Next time, perhaps on another occasion, I can show that. So this is kind of a reduced complexibility of the same case, right? Everything on the same VNet. So let's see how that goes. Having some trouble here with my lights. Hope you guys can still see me. All right, let's keep going. I'm gonna get myself here. Let me see. 1 second. You get myself here a little smaller, out of the way, so you guys can see the portal better. All right, let's keep going. So again, I have my virtual machine over here, and I also have the services I want to connect to, right? I have my storage account. I have my storage account. I have my database, my SQL database, and I also have Fabric, like I have shown you on the slide deck. So let's start with the simpler one. Let's start with the of course, I have the virtual network right here, right? The VNet. See the three dots over there? I have the VNet going on right here. So let's start with and the virtual network. I mean the virtual machine. Let me get here into the virtual machine. You'll see that the virtual machine. If I go here into networking, network settings, the virtual machine is on the network interface over here, right? Network interface. It is connected both to the public IP address, so I can jump into that one, but also in the private network, right? It's also connected to the private network. IP settings. Here's my private network right there on the 10.0.0 subnet right there. Perfect. So let's go ahead and take a look on the storage account. Here's my storage account, my private storage account, SA, right? My private storage account. So if I go here into the networking of the private of the account, storage account, network, there we go. If I go here into networking, I will see here that the networking enable. You see, it's enabled for all networks. It's facing the public internet. Is not closed to the public internet, which means that if I went from my local computer here, I could go and connect to this one. But that's not what I want. What I want is to have a private endpoint connection, which means that this service supports a private link. It already has one end of the cable to it. I just need to connect the other end to a private endpoint. I'm going to add here a private endpoint on the same. It's going to be on the same resource group because for to keep a good organization, you get this thing on the same resource group. Especially for this occasion, after the session is over, I'm going to delete the whole thing with one click. That's the idea. So I'm going to do this one here. My private link storage account, and connect to all the services that need to be on the same region. So my storage account and my VNets, they are in the same region, so that will connect. If it is in another region, I need to have a VNet on the same region where the service is, and then I need to pair the VNets in between both regions, right? That's something we can see some other day. So that is that. Now I need to refer to a service, right? Which service do I want to connect in there? So let's say I want to do the file storage side of the storage account, right? Storage account has 4 services in there. Blob is one of them. So I want to be able to allow applications inside that VNet to send files, right, to this storage account. And now I'm gonna choose the VNet. Because things here are already set up, put it, to help us out here with the time and time management. It already detect, okay, you are in this region, you are in this resource group. So in that resource group, I can see that there is a VNet there. See the keep it private networking, and there's a VNet there. And there are some others if I want to connect to other ones, but that's the one I want to connect to. And there is only one subnet, because a VNet can be split in multiple subnets. Some services will require that with the case of Fabric, which we'll see in a second. So I'm going to keep it the default. It's the only one that I have. And I may decide to assign a particular IP address, or keep it dynamic, grab the first one available on that subnet. But once that IP is collected to that subnet, it will not change, which helps with name resolution, DNS, and all of that. Talking about DNS, I'm going to keep the DNS with the default DNS service that is in the VNet, right? Every VNet comes with the default DNS server. I'm going to keep that one to keep things easier and simpler for deployment. And I'm going to go and create, not the storage account. The storage account is already there, but I'm creating a private link connecting that storage account to that VNet. So that now that storage account has 2 cables, right? One to the public internet and one to the private network, right, to the private VNet. Once this one here is deployed, I will go back to the network settings over there, and I will remove the public connection to it. And while it's doing this, let me go ahead and open the portal here to get connected to the virtual machine. So let me get to my account here. And I do have that virtual machine there, my jump box. Let's go ahead and connect. These are Microsoft Azure money that they give to us to present sessions like this for free, which is a great thing. And let's go and download the RDP file. Let's open up here on the side window. Whoops, too big. Let me show you this. The whole thing got really big here. Where is you? There we go. Let me grab you here. There we are. So that's the account to connect, and this is the password. See, going into the virtual machine. So this virtual machine here that I'm connecting to is connected to that VNet, right? So all the service will be visible to this virtual machine. I'm gonna let it keep processing there. Sometimes this takes a little while. While it's doing this one here for the storage account, let's do the other one for SQL Server. So let's go back here to home and going back to my resource group. And here's my SQL Server. You see, the process will be pretty much the same, right? Conceptually, it's the same. Sometimes the interface in the portal changes a little bit, but the process is pretty much the same. So here, I want to connect this database that I have deployed here for this demonstration. I have a database in here, and this is my server. This is my database down here, sensitive database. This is my database there. And if I want to do some query here, I believe I can do it from here. Let's see if this one goes through. Yep, it goes through. So I have here some tables, but see, I'm doing this through the public internet. I don't want this, right? I want to have it on a private setting. So select count star from sales LT customer, for instance, and this query should work. See, I have 847, and this is not how I want this to work, right? I want this to be private. So let's go back to um, the settings, right? Now, with SQL, the interesting thing about SQL is the networking of a database is not set on the database; it's set on the server. So I have to go to the server, which should be here somewhere. Here, here's my server. And if, well, usually there is a link here to get to the server. Just go back to this guy here and get to the server. And in here, I'm going to look for the network. Here's networking. And here in the network, you see public access is allowed for everybody. So I'm going to break this. I don't want this to be allowed to public internet. I want this to, and I'm going to save it. So at this point, if someone's trying to connect now, it will be blocked, right? Not to the public internet anymore. And I'm gonna go to, you see, the private access we have just seen through the slides and in the storage account before. I'm gonna do it through the same process, conceptual process. The connections may be a bit different, the interface here. Actually, this one looks exactly the same, which is great, but some don't. So let's go for it. Keep it private is my resource group. This one here is my private SQL on WestUS3. So what am I doing here? I'm connecting a SQL server. So see, this is a cable for SQL server. So I have the private link to a SQL server somewhere. And actually, this SQL server I'm setting up here, right? And I'm connecting the other end of the cable to the virtual network. And I'm connecting to the same subnet. So the point I want you to grab from here is this. Some services, they uh, they can connect to the VNet and to the subnet on the VNet that's already there. After this one here, I'm going to show you that require a dedicated subnet. Some services you have to go through the documentation, it's a case by case basis, right? So you have to go over to the documentation. This one's here, just connecting like this, and it will be good to go. So let's go next. But the next one, the fabric one, requires a particular, a dedicated subnet. So everything looks good in here. Let's go create. And it will create the endpoint like was creating for the other one. So this deployment in here is actually doing the cable connection. Why it's doing this for SQL? Let me go back in here. So my private endpoint now is deployed for the storage account. So if I go back here to the storage account and I look for, actually this is the private endpoint. So the private endpoint is deployed. Let's go back to the storage account and we'll see on the networking of the storage account that the public one is still open. So I'm going to disable that, save. So no public access to this storage account, but the private endpoint is connected to my VNet, which means that if I go to my, oh, I finished this. Okay. If I come in here to my remote desktop that's connected to that VNet, if I go there, open the browser, okay, let's finish this up. Mm-hmm. So if I go here to portal.azure.com and do my demo account, multi-factor authentication, ready for zero trust. Let's see, U98, go. Stay signed in. Yeah, sure, why not? Nope. All right. So if I go here to the storage account that was browsing before, right? And if I go here to storage, and if I go into the blob containers, and if I want to go ahead and create a blob container here, like demo SA, oops, cannot type, demo SA container. So if I create this guy here from the virtual machine, I'm able to create, I can see, I can upload files there. But if I go back to my local laptop here at home, right? And I try to do the same operation, if I go to storage browser and try to look into the blob containers, oh, this should be blocked somehow. Oh, there we go. See, it's not authorized because I'm doing it from the public internet and is blocked through the public internet. Only if I am into my private network from within my company, I can see the content of this one here. So that's the thing for the storage account, right? The same goes for SQL Server. So with these changes, right, we have already created the private endpoint for SQL Server. If I go back to SQL here on the server and look into the network, look into the networking, my public access is disabled. My private access should be connected to SQL, which means that if I go to the database, where is my database? Here. If I go here to the database now and try that query again from the query editor, I got an error. See, you cannot connect it there. Network access is denied. You cannot go there. It's not facing the public internet anymore. But if I go into my computer that's running from the private network and I go into SQL, I should be able, fingers crossed, SQL database, there we go. I should be able to run, let me get this a little bigger so you guys can see. Let's see what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the database, query editor right here. And there we go, already green light there for me. And I can see the content of my database only if I am on my private setting, keeping my data communication private. See, this is the whole thing, right? Keeping the thing private, keeping the communication private. One last demo, and then we're gonna open up for questions. One last demo here is if I want to do if I want to work with Fabric. So Fabric it's a resource that exists in the Office 365 offering. The capacity is in Azure, but the Office 365 is the one that really connects to it, which means that it's all on the um, zero trust, but I cannot really block it from seeing the public internet, Fabric itself. But if I need to get data from my SQL Server into Fabric, I need to connect Fabric to the VNet. And it does support it. I'm able to come in here and create a gateway in Fabric to do that connection. I just noticed that we are like 2 minutes before the hour. So I will save that for another day. So you can see that going another day. But the bottom line is you just saw how connecting cables in Azure look like when you need to get the service from one end to the other, and how to wire them up and see how the whole test worked from end to end. For the Fabric one, because Fabric would require a subnet, I would have to go to my VNet there. Where is my VNet? Let's see the VNet. VNet is right here. Virtual network right here. And I would have to come here and create a subnet, connected subnet. I would have to create a subnet that would be dedicated to Fabric, right? So 10.0.0 is already my default one. So I know this must not overlap. So I'm going to do then 10.0.1, and I'm gonna call this guy, let's say, Fabric subnet. And yep, and then I would add that subnet here, and then I would go into Fabric and say, hey, I want you to connect to this VNet, and this is your dedicated subnet, because Fabric would require a dedicated subnet. All right. Okay, so with that in mind, let's switch back here to the slide deck, right? We just implemented this. I did not have time to implement the Fabric one, but we just implemented this one here. And in summary, this is what we have discussed. Let's see here. This is what we have discussed, right? The private network is how you keep things private up in Azure. You need a private endpoint to connect your service that supports private link to the private endpoint. Express route is not required, but it's a great idea to have in order to guarantee network performance and avoid sharing with heavy traffic to other destinations on the public internet. And regardless if you have the express route or not, you will need a gateway to connect your on-premise data centers to the private network that you get in the cloud and all the services that are connected to the private network. So this is it. This is our content for the day. I'm going to open up the floor for questions. I'm going to call Suresh back into the stage. Are there any questions that you guys would like to ask? And I can try to answer. You can jump. You can come in the microphone, speak your question.
They cannot actually ask the question over the mic. But if there anybody who wants to talk, in the mic, I can give them access to do that.
All right. Are
But
there questions in the chat?
uh, well, I do not see anything that is specific that you can answer. But let's give them a 2 minutes if that's okay
Sure.
to kind of like drop the questions.
Of course. Once again, thank you for having me with the group. I love this series. And like I said, I love making new friends and be able to share some of the stuff that I do. Um, so is this group based in India?
So this is based in Asia Pacific.
Asia
So
Pacific.
most are like Asia Pacific, Philippines, Bangladesh. Also, there is also India, and yeah,
Go all over. Cool. Very
yeah,
cool.
we do get all over Asia Pacific. I do not see any specific technical questions so far. Mm, okay, there is one question from Hardy. So,
Hey,
can you explain the express road process in a short?
the express route? Sure. Let
Yes,
me go back
process. Yes.
here. Couple slides. Here we go. Let me get myself smaller here. Yep. And here's my mouse, right? So here's the thing. Let's say you are here in Los Angeles, and someone here has a laptop and is browsing the public internet. So the traffic would go over this, the connection to the public internet and hit whatever site they're connecting to. And Azure is one of those sites that's also available through the public internet. So if this site wants to talk to Azure over this path, it would have to compete with network bandwidth with all of the traffic hitting the public internet. Express Route is a service, is one of the few services that Azure offers that's actually a physical service, meaning you're gonna go to the Azure portal. You're gonna say I wanna have an express route. They're gonna check where your location is, if there is an availability for express route there, and if there is, they will send someone from a local phone company, telephone company, or internet provider to bring a cable and connect to a network device at your local data center. So from that point on, you can set up your routers when the traffic is for the public internet. It keeps going this way, but when the traffic goes over to Azure, it instead of going to the red line, it goes over the blue line, which means that the traffic for Azure is separated from other traffic and has a reliable bandwidth, right? Your contract will have a bandwidth like 1 GB, 2 GB, 10 GB, depending on your budget, your workload, whatever you need. And all the traffic to Azure will be through this dedicated line. So the bottom line of Express Route is to have a dedicated connection specifically to Azure and or Microsoft 365, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI, all those OneDrive, right? All those computes that exist up there in the Office 365 offering, to have a dedicated connection from your data center to those places with the goal of having a stable, reliable connection to Azure Cloud. Does that answer the question? I hope that answers the question. All right. I see another one there. Is ExpressRoute same with AWS Direct Connect? Probably. Sound. I'm not an AWS guy, so I really don't know. I would have to Google here to check that out. But I believe the name sounds like it. Yeah, that came from Sean. So probably Sean. There is another one here, Azure Fabric. Well, explain Fabric, it's a session for another day, right? I do have a session called, Fabric crash course when I present Fabric in a nutshell in an hour. But the bottom line about Fabric is Fabric is a data analytics platform for data engineers, data scientists, uh, business analytics engineers, the data architects, for all of them to work together in one platform. So instead of having the data engineer working with Databricks per se, and having your platform guy working on Azure platform, and having your data analyst working in Power BI, and have your data scientist working on Azure machine learning. Many different services, and then you have to try to connect them all together instead of having this very spread out collection of services. You have one service that's Fabric, and everybody converges there. Everyone using their own specific compute, but sharing the data among them all. So it's a unified uh, data analytics platform, both for business analytics, BI, machine learning, and so on. So that's the best way I can summarize it in one sentence. Okay, what else can I see here? When will I get a certificate? Certificate, that's funny. All right. Can you tell me what is a gateway? A gateway is either a device or a service in Azure, for instance, that connects to networks. So if I want to have a VPN, VPN is a protocol, it's not a device, right? If I want to have a VPN in between two networks, I need to have a device that will make that VPN possible. And that device is the gateway. Some vendors may have different names for it. In the past, Microsoft used to have a service called proxy server that had a gateway service into it, into Windows Server. Windows Server has a gateway service as well. Azure has a gateway service. So the bottom line is, if you need to establish a VPN in between two endpoints, you need to have a gateway in the middle. So the gateway is right. I think is my next slide here. The gateway is what makes the VPN possible in between two networks. All right. I don't understand what presence means, but that's fine. I think Sureg is keeping a catalog, right? A roster there of people who attended. There is a form going on. All right. I don't see any new questions. Sureg, are we good here? Can we wrap up?
Yeah, yeah, I think we are good here.
All right. Once again, thank you very much for having me on this session. It was fun to be here. And I hope you and my new friends have learned something new. I see you around over there.
Yeah, really appreciate that you guys, you joined us and shared your knowledge. We'll be happy to have you again if it's possible in the future. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining as well. I hope you have taken away something in the past 1 hour. And yeah, we'll see you in the upcoming sessions. Thank you again, Armando. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank
Bye.
you for having me. Bye bye.